Hello everybody, Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Monday's edition, and welcome to the day before the election. Folks, just happy to be with you today from our studios here in Irvine, California. I know I've been away from studio a couple weeks. You can see a little bit noticeable change here. My eye attire is different than the past, so I had a little bit of an eye issue I've had to deal with for the past couple weeks. But the day before the election, everybody's enthused and we're ready to go. So happy to be back with you from the studios here in Irvine, California. And thanks for joining us for the past couple weeks when my sight was a little bit difficult. Anyhow, let's get right to it. Enough about this, and let's focus on what's going to happen tomorrow. Folks, right now, we've had 40 million people vote so far. And you know, I mean, just like everything else that the Democrats talk about, most of it becomes a lie. Think about this, folks. The enthusiasm among both Democrats and Republicans is off the charts. We've seen races tighten. Many of them are too close to call. You've seen a situation where the Democrats tried to tell the country that there was voter suppression going on. Hell, Stacey Abrams is still saying it, despite the fact that there is record turnout in the state of Georgia. And it was like I was starting to say in the opening monologue here. The reason the Democrats are going to lose the election tomorrow is because they lied to the American people. They misrepresented going into office what they were going to do, and they governed against the will of the American people. They did not address, as a Democratic strategist on CNN suggested, they governed one way and the people were asking for something else. 77% of Americans believe the country is going in the wrong direction, and a full 2/3 want significant changes. Well, it's in their hands. It's in the voters' hands at the ballot box. But the idea, think about this for a minute. We've talked about it for the last 2 years, how the Democrats have been lying to us about virtually everything from the moment they came into office. Look what they've been campaigning on. They've been campaigning on election integrity, the democracy, it's at stake. Well, folks, we know what happened on January 6th, and we know the democracy held fine. We know people did the right thing, and we know that Biden, whether you agree or disagree with the votes, was elected president, and he's serving as president. Our democracy survived just fine. And you know what? On a list of 20 issues, that likes ranked near the bottom. What else are they campaigning about? They're saying, well, there's voter suppression going on. Really? We're going to have a record turnout for a midterm election. And there's infinite amount of ways to vote. You can vote in person on election day. You can vote early voting, going to a polling place. You can do mail-in ballots. It has never been easier to vote in this country. And again, whether you're a Republican or Democrat or independent, record turnout. So again, all the lies they tried to basically perpetrate on the American public. You know what happens, folks? When you're not governing the way the American public wants you to represent them, you try to change the subject. You try to deflect, try to hide, and that's what they've done. What else were the Democrats campaigning on? Abortion. Yeah, that's it. You know, after the Hobbs decision and the overturn of Roe v. Wade, Democrats were pounding their chests. Oh, we got him. We got him here. No, that didn't happen either. Why did that not resonate as much? A couple different reasons. One, Republicans have moderated their positions. Two, in almost most states, if you want an abortion, you can get an abortion. So, I mean, that's the backdrop to it. But here's the piece that the Democratic Party did not grasp. They didn't grasp the pain and suffering that the American people are dealing with the state of the economy, high gas prices, crime in their cities, and people strolling across that border. They didn't grasp that. Let's take those issues for a minute. The Democratic Party tries to blame inflation on everybody else. Supply chains. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's all across the globe. Well, that's right. No, the fact of the matter is, when the Democrats passed their $1.9 trillion spending package right out of the gate, against a warning from former Treasury Secretary, a Democrat, Larry Summers, that this was going to be inflationary, they did it anyhow. They were warned not to do it at that size and scope. This was on top of the Federal Reserve basically printing way too much money. So now all that comes about, and yet Democrats continue to lie. They did not focus on it. What was Biden's answer to rising gas prices? To release 1 million barrels a day out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That didn't do a whole lot of anything. It helped around the edges marginally. Eventually, you have to replenish that. So issue after issue, when the American people were saying, deal with inflation, what would the Biden administration do? They go out there and say, well, the unemployment rate's 3.5%. That's true. But they're not focusing on the inflation piece. If people's wages are not catching up to the inflation rate, they're falling behind. And when you have to drive by a gas station every day, and in some parts of the country, California, Nevada, where it's consistently above $5, and in California, Nevada, above $6. I know it's a shock to a lot of the rest of the country, but that's what it is. So, again, those are some of the issues we've dealt with. But it didn't just start there. The incompetency of the president. Look, his approval ratings have been hovering between the mid-30s and the low 40s. I think the consensus right now would be he's at about 40% approval rating. In the past, that would translate into a massive landslide for Republicans. So let's break it down now. You know what the issues are, and we'll talk about them a little more in the show, but let's break down what we're expecting to see tomorrow evening. Real Clear Politics is predicting the Republican Party will pick up 3 Senate seats and 31 House seats. That's slightly more optimistic than where we are here at Schaftlein Report. We had said the GOP would pick up 1 to 2 Senate seats and about 20 House seats. And we'll make it specific at the end of the show. Fox News is projecting right now a 49-47 Senate with 4 undecideds. 23 House seat pickup. I think that's a fairly conservative estimate. Cook Political Report says 18 House seats for the Republicans. The Democratic Guru 538.com says 15 seats in the House. So let's figure out where they're coming from. With a Biden approval rating at 40%, folks, that's where he is. And the interesting thing about it is, to add fuel to the fire on the incompetence of our president, even the Washington Post, liberal newspaper, they created what's called a bottomless Pinocchios. You know, they have a Pinocchio rating, 1, 2, 3, 4 Pinocchios, depending upon how much a politician lies. In Biden's case, it's bottomless. It's endless. He's been out there in the closing days of the campaign lying about Social Security, lying about inflation, and lying about gas prices, just among 3. His claims on Social Security and Medicare are absurd. There's not one politician of either party who have advocated anything other than solvency for Social Security. On inflation, Biden says inflation's under control. It's down a couple points. No, it's not. And on gas prices, he claims that gas was $5 a gallon when he came into office. No, it was half that. And he makes further claims about ballot suppression, the democracy's on. They actually are tuning the president out. And these comments that he makes, it's even got Democrats cringing right now. So our opinion here, we don't think that approval rating is in the low to mid 40s. We think it's actually sub 40. The generic ballot, that's the question that comes up. Do you prefer Republicans or Democrats? I know the mainstream media tried to portray ABC and NBC as even. The polling we've watched does not show it even. It shows Republicans up by 2 points. And generally, Republicans get undercounted by a point. So if Republicans really have a 3-point edge in the generic ballot, you know, on Schaftlein Report, we said that for months, we've said 20 seats in the House. And we thought the Senate would be a gain of 1. Well, we'll codify our Senate piece at the end of the show. The big question now is, from a demographic point of view, how will African Americans, Latinos, and suburban women voters go? A lot of people are predicting a major shift in this election. There's talk that Republicans could pick up to 20% of the black men vote. That would be huge. They're saying that on the Latino side, it could be 40% of the Latino vote. And suburban housewives that basically shifted the election to Joe Biden 2 years ago, a major shift towards Republicans. Why are they doing this? Because the policies of the Biden administration are not working for those groups. They're not working for any Americans. Now, will this shift be as large as predicted? We don't know. But we can tell you unequivocally this. If 20% of Democratic men who are African American vote Republican, it's Katie bar the door for Democrats. If 40% of Latino voters shift to Republicans, it's Katie bar the door for Democrats. And if the suburban housewives who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 shift and vote Republican in 2022, as is expected, it's Katie bar the door for Democrats. If 2 or 3 of those groups go, you're not looking at a red wave, you'd be looking at a tidal wave, a tsunami. Now, on specific races, let's talk about Georgia for a minute. Legendary football coach Vince Dooley had endorsed Herschel Walker in a video. Herschel played for Dooley at Georgia when they won the national championship. That goes all the way back to like 1980, 81. So Walker received that endorsement. Vince Dooley passed away last week. Herschel Walker has been surging in the polls. People aren't buying all that crap about paying for this abortion, that. They know Herschel Walker in Georgia. They know the man. He's been an icon in the state ever since he's been 19 years old. Walker has been surging. Trafalgar poll has him at +2. The question is, though, can he get to 50% on election night? We don't know the answer to that. Our best guess has been that Walker will win that race, but he won't get 50%. And we'll sort of summarize that at the end of the show where we are. We hope he hits 50. That would spare all of us the need to go through a runoff election in December. Now, the Arizona and Pennsylvania races, those are basically tied. Think about that, folks. We're a day before the election, and almost all the polling shows both of those races tied. Now, if the GOP picks up either one, well, GOP already has Pennsylvania, so Dr. Oz needs to win Pennsylvania for them to keep that seat. If the Republicans lose Pennsylvania and that buffoon Fetterman wins, then we have to pick up 2 seats elsewhere. Could come from Arizona, could come from Nevada, could come from Georgia, or could come from New Hampshire. New Hampshire's also close. Now the GOP, Adam Laxalt, leads by anywhere, what poll you look at, 2 to 5 points in Nevada. Will that lead hold up? I know the culinary union's big out there, but, are you going to go, if you're in a culinary union, are you going to go vote Democrat just because your leaders tell you to when you're out there paying in Nevada $5 to $6 a gallon for gasoline? I don't know. We'll see. In Ohio, J.D. Vance has expanded his lead. He's up anywhere 8 to 10 points. We've been expecting him to win. We thought it might be 4, 5, 6 points in Ohio. Looks like it's a little bit bigger. His opponent has been exposed as not a moderate Democrat, but a liberal Democrat. That's the thing, folks. When you look at all these Democrats are trying to run away from Biden, some of them, I barely know the guy. The interesting thing is, in every one of their cases, every one, they voted with Biden and Schumer and Pelosi in excess of 96% of the time. Every one of them. And yet some of them claim to be moderates. Ryan's won, Vance's opponent. People in Ohio aren't buying it. He comes up with that, well, shucks, good old boy Ohio guy. No, his voting record was 98%. Now, we're going to get a pretty good indication early in the evening as these votes come in from New Hampshire. General Don Baldock against Maggie Hassan, the woman who owns 4 houses in Washington, D.C. And we're going to get some early indications in that New York governor's race where Congressman Lee Zeldin is surging. Now, can he win? Can he defeat arguably one of the worst candidates the Democrats have ever put up in Kathy Hochul? I don't know. We'll see. She's another one, just sort of lies her way through it. Claims that it's a big conspiracy that the media and the Republicans are talking about crime in New York. Really? Say that to all those people getting pushed in front of a subway car. Say that to all the crime in New York City. Say that to the crime in upstate New York. Crime is a real issue in this country. And these Democratic-fed prosecutors, these insane bail policies, Americans are saying enough is enough. So it's just, when you add it all up, I think tomorrow night is going to be a very good night for Republicans. However, I want to caution you against this. Don't come to conclusions quickly. I remember in the 2020 election, Trump had a lead at one point of 600,000 votes, and we know what happened. Now, before we get into our final piece, let's talk about a couple other Biden issues here. Biden made Senator Joe Manchin absolutely furious over the weekend. I heard the tape on it. Biden says he plans to close down coal mines all across the country. Really? Folks, you know what states are big coal states? West Virginia, where Joe Manchin's the senator, and Pennsylvania, where there's an election tomorrow. Manchin was furious with Biden, and he called him out. Think about that. Threatening to close down the coal industry right before winter when people are going to freeze without it. This guy is tone deaf. He's got nothing but radical leftists as staffers. He's not capable of understanding this stuff on his own. He goes out there and spews talking points. What did the White House do? They immediately walked it back. Said, no, he didn't mean that. Yes, he did, folks. He really believes shutting down coal plants in the United States is going to affect global warming. It's not going to make one iota of difference. None. All it's going to do is throw a bunch of coal miners out of work. And Biden's comment, well, we'll replace them with green energy. No, it doesn't work that way, Mr. President. Doesn't work that way. We got to have everything. We got to have oil, coal, natural gas, wind, solar, you name it. But no, shutting down coal industry, that's not the answer. I mean, it's just more incompetency out of this guy. Now, we talked a little bit last week about the Israeli election. Benjamin Netanyahu winning it. As of yesterday, Biden still had not called Netanyahu to congratulate him. Folks, that's common courtesy you do. The reason why he didn't do it is because the Democrats are no fan of Netanyahu. They don't like the man. Why? Because he's conservative. So again, on the international stage, another blunder. And of course, in our daily crime report that we talk about on Monday, Chicago's normally the star of the show. And they had their batch of crime over the weekend, but we picked out Philadelphia because of the Pennsylvania race. 9 people shot and wounded outside a Philadelphia bar. Again, commonplace. I mean, crime is everywhere, and people are fed up with it. Now, another thing that people are fed up with is this open border fiasco that we are dealing with the Biden administration. Folks, if the GOP takes both chambers of commerce, major changes will be coming to the border. Voters are furious. 200,000 people a month crossing that border. And all of a sudden, when they're going into sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, oh no, people are not happy about that. So, in summarizing the Biden administration, think about this. From the minute he came into office, he immediately shuts down the Keystone Pipeline. Energy prices start to rise. And they've been going up throughout his entire administration. Gas in California is still above $6 a gallon. Peaked earlier this year above $7. We had the disastrous exit from Afghanistan. We talked about it endlessly on our show. We had military experts come on and talk about it. A complete fiasco. The inflation has pounded the American public. And it's currently, as of election day, sitting somewhere between 7 and 8%. Gas prices surged, backed off a little, they're up again. They're double what they were when Biden took office. The economy, layoffs are starting, particularly in Silicon Valley and some of the tech companies. Restructurings are starting to happen. 2/3 of the American people believe we're heading towards a recession in 2023. Education. Folks are tired of this woke education system. When Glenn Youngkin was elected governor of Virginia last year, beating Terry McAuliffe, education was the main issue. Parents are tired of COVID lockdowns, of woke education, the transgenderism that they're trying to stick down people's throat. They've had enough. You throw in the crime situation across the country and 200,000 people coming across that border, Americans are fed up. And now the question is, what are they going to do about it? Well, we're going to know some tomorrow night. And one other bit of political news here. Senator Tom Cotton, someone we really, really like on this show, has decided to pass on a 2024 run. We'll know more about that later. But he basically said, look, I'm raising 2 kids, age 5 and 7. I need to be there for them. But we're going to have some really good candidates in 2024. But that's the future. Now, let's talk about where we are, what's going to happen. Our belief is we will end up taking 20 seats, maybe 22, 23 in the House. And our belief in the Senate is that on election night, by the time all the votes count on election night, Republicans are likely to be at 50 seats. 50-48 is where we believe it'll be. And I think the Pennsylvania race is going to take a day or two to count because it is very tight. There's a lot of absentee ballots. They have a slow counting system. I don't think we're going to know Pennsylvania results on election night. It may take a day or two. And the Georgia race could be headed towards runoff. I believe that will likely happen. So we could be in a situation, how we see the crystal ball here is Republicans taking 50 seats on election night. Pennsylvania still open. Georgia still open. There could be other races that are tight. There is a realistic chance that we're underestimating that. I mean, we're going to see early tomorrow night. I mean, if things heat up and General Don Bolduc does well in New Hampshire, and if Lee Zeldin takes New York governor's race, and some of these other House seats in Virginia flip like we can, what could be a standard red wave election could turn into a red tsunami. And if everything breaks Republicans' way, there's some talk you could see, instead of a 52-54 Senate, you could see 55 or higher. There's other races very close. Colorado's close. I know Chris Christie is predicting an upset in Colorado. Washington State, very close. Tiffany Smiley in Washington State, very close there. There'll be surprises. You know, polls are polls. Generally, they're pretty good, but they're not always accurate. How many polls did you think showed Donald Trump winning the 2016 election? Not many. I still remember on election night, Hillary Clinton has a 98.9% chance to win. And then all those liberals in downtown New York, midtown Manhattan, were just seen crying leaving a theater. The message is, folks, if you haven't voted, get out there and vote. But it is shaping up to be a good night for Republicans all across the board. Our expectations are that the Republican Party will secure both chambers, the Senate and the House, and pick up a few governor's seats. And under a best case scenario, we got opportunities in New Hampshire. We feel good about Wisconsin. We feel good about North Carolina, Ohio, Florida. We feel great about Herschel in Georgia, whether he hits 50 tomorrow evening or it leads to a runoff. We think he's going to eventually win. Fetterman and Oz, close. Oz was gaining in the polling. Pennsylvania needs Oz. They do not need a guy like Fetterman in there. No. And think about this. If you're endorsed by Barack Obama and Joe Biden, to me, as bad as the country is moving under Biden, not good. Arizona, toss-up. Nevada, we look like we have a good chance to pick up a game there. Wisconsin, solid with Ron Johnson. Colorado's a maybe. Washington, a maybe. There's opportunities galore. So we'll be with you tomorrow on Election Day here in studio, giving you updates. We'll be cutting through the propaganda as always. And get out there, tell your friends, if you know anyone that hasn't voted yet, tell them to vote. And hopefully they vote Republican. All right, folks, that's it for today. We feel really good heading into Election Day tomorrow. Stay safe. We're expecting a lot of good things to happen. And maybe tomorrow night we can effectively start turning this country around. Thanks for viewing and listening. It's great to be back in the studio, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.